Last time on What If Toribot joined the Z Fighters, well, it wasn't called that. It was What If Toribot joined the Dragon Team. But now, they're gonna be the Z Fighters in this one onward, because I just wanted to differentiate between Dragon Ball and Z. But anyway, Chi-Chi and Toribot battled Piccolo and his clone, while Oozaru Goku battled Oozaru Raditz. Using her ferocious fighting style to her advantage, Chi-Chi was able to take out the Piccolo clone and help Toribot fight the original. Goku was stronger than Raditz, but due to his lack of control over his transformation, Raditz was beating him, until Chi-Chi and Toribot arrived and came to his rescue. Although Goku could not control himself, he still allowed them to help him and attack Raditz because it gave him the upper hand. An out of control and out of his mind Goku, not particularly caring about honor or a respectable fight or anything of the sort. Toribot cut Raditz's tail off, and the Saiyan invader fell to the ground while Chi-Chi was trying to snap Goku back into reality. After enough convincing, it worked, and he returned into consciousness. However, he also underwent the revelation that he was the one who killed Grandpa Gohan. But he realized, due to the words of his friend and wife, that while it is okay to regret what happened, Gohan still forgave him and loved him even in spite of it. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't have shown up to see him at Baba's palace. Shortly thereafter, they searched for Raditz, but they were unable to locate him. They figured, since Piccolo had also left, that Piccolo probably just simply picked him up, took him, and left. Getting back into the story, only 1/3 of this hypothesis is correct. Piccolo did leave on his own accord, not wanting to face the likes of Toribot, Chi-Chi, and especially not an Oozaru Goku. Plus, if Raditz really was gonna convince Goku to come into space with him for that plan of his, then Piccolo being there would only serve to muddy the waters further. Ultimately, it's best for all parties involved that he simply leave. Or so he thought. Either way, the fact of the matter is, for whatever reason, Raditz, who was thoroughly unconscious by now, was now gone. If Piccolo didn't take him, then who could have? Or maybe Raditz had the ability to suppress his ki now? Who knows? They did try sensing him out, of course, but that didn't really give them anything. They felt his energy pop up briefly for a moment, even stronger than before, but a few seconds later, it immediately shot right back down to zero. Offhandedly, Goku does posit one idea. Maybe those people came and kidnapped him? But then they'd be able to sense them, right? Unless their ki is undetectable in some way. But Goku quickly dismisses the thought as a crazy conspiracy theory. After all, Raditz suppressing himself and sneaking away into the forest or something is far more likely than getting kidnapped in the middle of the evening. Even if those people did show up, they totally would have seen them, right? Then again, they were all focused on each other and trying to snap Goku back into his senses. But for now, they'll just wave the thought away. It's pretty unlikely, to say the least. Tao, Upa, whoever's out there, they can only strike so many times without being intercepted, right? Well, you can make of that what you will. Did Raditz escape into the forest and just live on his own and suppress his ki? Or was he kidnapped? That's up for you to come to your own interpretation on for now. Still, with Raditz seemingly out there on the loose either way, you could forgive the Dragon Team for being a little bit on edge. They were strong enough to beat Raditz once before, sure, but the fact that he and Piccolo had resorted to kidnapping Gohan, Chi-Chi, and Goku, it just doesn't sit right with them at all, for good reason. Plus, Piccolo's still out there too, and this is just as much his fault as it was Raditz's. They try to focus on what they could have done better. What Chi-Chi and Gohan did wrong was absolutely nothing. What Goku did wrong was also absolutely nothing. That whole transformation thing, well, he wasn't planning on being forced to look into the moonlight and turn into a monkey. But knowing that he was the one to crush his grandfather, even if by accident, and knowing that he may have even hurt his family or friends, is not something he would easily forget so soon. The fact of the matter is, his lack of control over that transformation is what had caused him and his loved ones so much trouble. Whether they're the Grandpa Gohan, or the son Gohan, or the wife Chi-Chi, or the buddies Toribot or Mai, his inability to control himself in that form is a major detriment. And if Raditz could control himself as an Oozaru, then Goku has no excuse to not be able to himself. Or at least that's how he perceives it. How is it that Raditz can control that form, but not him? Was it because Raditz had other people there to support him and calm him down when he's going apeshit? Pun intended? Well, Goku honestly cannot verify anything about that. He has no clue. He's never even really spoken to Raditz in this scenario. But considering the fact that Piccolo was never there supporting Raditz, telling him, "Oh, you can get back in control if you just believe in yourself," or something like that, no, he wasn't doing that. And Raditz was still able to control himself even without people talking to him. That's probably not it. And especially understanding the cruelty that Raditz is capable of, Goku would reasonably assume that that just isn't the correct answer. A man like Raditz does not know love, does not know friendship, so it has to be something else. But what could that be? He thinks about it a little bit more. The longer he stayed in that form, even before people started yelling at him to regain control over himself, he did start to retain more and more, even if ever so slightly. It's to the point where he genuinely remembers a bit of what he was doing in that fight with Raditz. So, if that's anything to go off of, then maybe the ticket is just to stay in the form even longer? But the problem with that is how out of control he was before. He may end up hurting his friends if he tries to do this. But at the same time, if he does go on a rampage, they're the only people who could reasonably stand to contest him, especially if they were all united in this effort. Ultimately, this is what Goku chooses to do. One night, he gathers the others in the Dragon Team, explaining his idea to them. They understand, and knowing what they'll have to do, while Goku is most likely not going to understand who he or they even are, they will have a bit of an advantage. They could restrain him more easily, and especially with more people around, get into his head even easier than before. After a few minutes of waiting for the full moon, it finally emerges, and Goku looks up, beginning his transformation. Though it was done with moderate difficulty, Goku's friends were indeed able to snap him out of his hazy rage and get him back into control. And with Goku having such immense strength in this form, they do realize that with Piccolo and Raditz still out there, it's not such a bad idea if they try to utilize this in their training when they can. Of course, a full moon only happens so many times a year, so they have to do that over the course of a couple months. All in all, despite having one tiny little freak-out moment that may or may not have put a pretty big dent into the fused peel-off machine, Goku has actually fully gained control over the Oozaru transformation. Though, for as good as this is, its benefits cannot fully be reaped, considering that Goku does not know how to make a Power Ball, and has really no idea about Blutz waves or Zenos or 13 million or 17 million or however many you need, or channeling Blutz waves through your tail, using your ki to replicate them. Something that also becomes privy to the Dragon Team, thanks to Chi-Chi, is the information that Frieza, whoever that really is the commander of Raditz. Piccolo was explaining a bit about that to her and Toribot during their moment of battle with him, and while they don't exactly know what this chain of command is, or how far up it can really go, they do know, at the very least, Frieza is likely even more powerful than Oozaru Raditz. How much more powerful? They have no clue. But, knowing the power of Goku as an Oozaru gives them a good benchmark to train up to. Really, they just want to make sure they can defend themselves from Raditz and Piccolo again if they really need to. Speaking of the Space Tyrant, though he doesn't exactly know what happened, there is at least some fleeting evidence that something went down on Earth. Raditz went there on an unassigned mission, without his permission, lacking any precision, and from the looks of things, because of his decision, his body and soul were fissioned. That is to say, Frieza's pretty sure that Raditz is dead. Even stranger is the fact that Raditz had ordered 2 extra space pods to Earth, without anybody in them, and yet not a single one of them, not even the original, returned. Luckily, he can charge the price of the 3 missing pods to Raditz's space bank account, but still, it's very strange. Earth is such a backwater, stick-in-the-mud planet with weak, little, impish, perfidy people who'd have absolutely no way of incapacitating Raditz in any capacity. Curious and wanting someone to satiate his desire for answers, Frieza orders for Raditz's squad mates, Vegeta and Nappa, to go check out the planet Earth to try and see what really happened. Nappa made sure to pack his detective hat and magnifying glass for the trip as well. Unfortunately, Vegeta smacked him on the back of the head and knocked the hat off, and then vaporized it and the magnifying glass with a couple key blasts, because he's a dickhead. A few months after what we're affectionately dubbing the incident, Kami is one day contacted by a voice he'd only come to hear a few times before. A very important voice, the voice of someone in a much higher plane of power than Kami himself is. This voice says, well, we were able to send some Universal Explorers out there to hide away on this particular person's planet and record what he had to say to Kami. Hopefully the MP3 file isn't too corrupted, but here is what he had to say.
Yo, Kami, it's King Kai. First off, man, I just want to ask you how you're doing and all that. Alright, that's good. See, listen, I'm contacting you because, something serious seems like it's gonna happen pretty soon. Galaxy-wide omniscience and all that. So, like, there's 2 same pods, man, and they're, like, coming straight for your planet. It's really dangerous. The guys inside are pretty strong, too, so I thought, I should be calling you and putting that out because it'd be bad. Just doing basic estimation calculation in my head right now. I think they're gonna be there in about 7 to 8 months. Stronger than Raditz? Oh yeah, by far. One of them's stronger than his monkey form too, and the other isn't close behind either. Plus I could go monkey on top of that too, so it's really not looking good for you. Oh yeah, see, I would love to let somebody from Earth come over here, but I'm not really sure if that's Bubba, what are you doing?
Oh, damn it, I've been spotted! Commander! Come in, Commander! Get me out of here!
Who the hell? Okay, listen, I'll call you back, but, like, there's this green person over here who... I never invited this guy, and, so, like, you understand my apprehension here, Kami. Alright, well, I'm out, so, Gregory, get me my hat!
The recording stops there. We weren't able to get a second recording, but King Kai essentially called Kami to explain that, though he would like to offer one of his warriors a spot on his planet to train, he figures that with such little time left, and with techniques as advanced as the Kaioken, and especially the Spirit Bomb, there may not be enough time to get there and get back on time. He doesn't really believe in the cut of their jib. After all, if Kami is so weak compared to even King Kai himself, logic dictates that the people on his planet would be even weaker too, right? So they wouldn't be able to run Snake Way, get up to the planet, then learn the Kaioken and Spirit Bomb, or just Kaioken, or just Spirit Bomb, just whatever. They wouldn't really be able to do that. That's what he believes. Is he right? I don't think so. But that's his perspective on it. Keep in mind, King Kai has not been watching over Earth himself, and the only reason he knows Raditz and his power level is because, he's been watching over the galaxy, mostly peeping in on the sands because he wants to know what kind of destruction they're causing, so that's how he knows Raditz's power level, but He just so happened to tune in to the Vegeta and Nappa show in time to see the coordinates entered in their space pods, which are coordinates to Earth, because they're going to Earth, because Frieza told them to go to Earth. But rest assured, when the time comes, if they so desire, or if they die in the battle despite their preparation, King Kai shall indeed allow them to enter his planet and train there and learn his techniques. Which would be pretty good for them, but they'd be fucking dead, so what use would it be? Knowing this information, Kami holds a gathering to ensure the Dragon Team knows what they're up against. They've already been training really hard for an encounter with Raditz or Piccolo, but now, with 2 more Saiyan warriors on their way to the planet, they have to kick it even further into gear. One of these Saiyans is stronger than Oozaru Raditz, and the other one, while weaker, is not that much weaker than Oozaru Raditz either. And then they could also go Oozaru on top of that. This meeting is also where the Dragon Team officially becomes knighted to be the Z Fighters. Granted, Z Fighters is not a canon term, and it's never been used in the manga or anime or any of the movies by any of the actual characters or any member of the Dragon Team / Z Fighters. But it's also kind of cool in a lame way, and like I said earlier, I want to differentiate the Dragon Ball era with Z, at least in this story, so just roll with it, okay? During the training period, Bulma savaged all 3 of the Saiyan space pods from the incident with assistance from Yamcha. One of them accidentally blew up right on top of him, but luckily he was able to recover from the explosion over a span of a couple of days. Having the other 2 pods still intact, Bulma was able to study them. She was also made aware that Goku's pod may still be out there somewhere, but they don't really want to bother looking for that right now. Due to her newfound knowledge gained from looking into the pods, Bulma is able to delve into more advanced and more speedy spacecrafts even earlier than in canon. Although there wouldn't be any gravity training because nobody knows about the benefits of that in this timeline. Nobody's been inside the hyperbolic time chamber yet. And Kami may ask them to go in at a later date, but for now, nope. For the next 3 hours, they're looking at nothing but weighted clothing. We're not covering the arrival of the Saiyans in this video, because look at the runtime. That'll be in the next one. But we are covering power levels right now. Toribot is at 10,000 because Bulma was able to develop more power batteries for him. He's also been granted a backpack full of small plasma balls, which are experimental, but they are developed with the purpose of emulating ki blasts. They're not super powerful, but they're certainly better than nothing. He does also have access to all the old gear he's made as well, and even some new stuff he made in his spare time, which you may just come to see in the next part. On top of that, his rainbow eye lasers have been enhanced, and his rocket boots have been enhanced too. They're still not as fast as they would be if he were a normal person with a power level of 10,000 using ki-based flight, but, you know, same logic as with the plasma balls. You take what you can get, you do what you can do. Goku is at 9,001. Are you done? Okay. Are we ready for the explanation now? Please. Okay! God damn! Now, why is Goku at this power level? This power level of... I'm not gonna repeat it. Well, he was already stronger than he was before he started his canon training. The fact he wasn't training in high gravity like on King Kai's planet does kind of diminish the gains he could have received, as this is a smaller power multiplier than he got with his training from King Kai in canon, but the fact that he was training with so many other powerful fighters did do some good for him as well. He has also gained full control over Oozaru during this time, as previously mentioned. So while yes, it is over 9,000, it could also be over 90,000. Specifically, 90,010! Apologies for how terrible that sounded, but every time I try to do an Ocean Dub Vegeta impersonation, I feel bile rising up my throat. It's not good. It's awful. Tien is at 7,400. On his own time, he's been practicing his aim using the Dodon Paw, as well as trying to hone his Four Witches technique further, so he doesn't have to drain too much of his ki when using it. The way he chose to attempt this is by keeping himself in that technique as long as he possibly can, without injuring himself, kind of like Goku and Gohan did with their Super Saiyan forms in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. Granted, he hasn't been able to utilize this technique nearly to the same extent as that, but he has gotten better with it. By this point, it would take about half an hour or so for them to really start hurting him outside some basic aches he gets earlier on, but by that point in the fight, it's pretty likely that it would already be wrapped up. Chi-Chi is at 7,200. All she's really done is focus on her strength and ki control to make sure she has what she knows down, rather than trying for anything new. Krillin is at 7,000. He's mostly taken the route of sharpening his skills and strength like Chi-Chi, but in particular, he's also made sure to train up the techniques taught to him by Shen, the assassination techniques. Considering what they've heard about the Saiyans, it is definitely worth brushing up on. Then there's also the Kienzan, which isn't a Crane School technique, but it is pretty damn good at assassination as well. Chaozu is at 6,900. Other than strength-based training, he's also been training up his psychic skills. He has been strengthening those abilities more and more by going several days at a time, only using his psychic powers to allow him to do anything. He has also tried a bit of target practice with his Dodon Paw when he's had the time, like Tien, but training his psychic abilities so much has enabled him to start paralyzing people who are even stronger than him. Right now, the strongest person he can paralyze is Tien, which means he can't really paralyze people that are that much stronger than him, but, you know, theoretically he could paralyze someone stronger too, but he can't paralyze Goku. All he can do is slow him down, which is still very useful for him in sparring. The more relative in power someone is to the person using their psychic powers, the more they would be slowed down when that power is used on them, especially when Chaozu is physically closer to the person in question. Slowing people down definitely has a greater strain on Chaozu than paralyzation, though. But as long as he and the other fighters are on the ball and working together properly, they should be able to win the fight with enough ease for that fact not to matter. Shen is at 6,800. He's made sure to go over his assassination techniques again, more specifically the physical end of them, the pressure point stuff, like Tao did. To make sure he doesn't kill anyone, he's only practiced them on Toribot, rather than anyone else who would actually be vulnerable to them. Keep in mind, if you're a robot, you don't have pressure points, you're not gonna die if you get a tongue to the neck or whatever. That won't happen. Like Chaozu, he has also trained his psychic abilities some more, and the strongest person he can paralyze is Chi-Chi. Tien is just a tad bit too strong for him. Yet, still, he can be slowed down in the attempt to paralyze him. Yamcha is at 5,900. It may be controversial that he's weaker than Shen here, but there is a reason for this. He's had to step up quite a bit in helping out Bulma recently. Although it hasn't been explained to anyone, there's something occupying her a bit from being able to work with her full fervor, so Yamcha's had to be there to work as her assistant. One positive thing from this is that Yamcha has actually come to understand, to a certain extent, a lot more about technology than he ever did before. Bulma had to teach him quite a bit. That isn't to say that he's gonna single-handedly build a rocket ship or anything like that, but it means he's become a pretty amateur mechanic. Someone who isn't the greatest in the world, but he certainly knows more than your average person. Out of any mechanic in the Dragon team, he's definitely the worst, but it's still good that he even has these skills at all. He's also learned to tinker with radios and such because of a certain incident involving an unnamed floating vampire with psychic powers who we're gonna not address by name right now because anonymity. who may or may not have accidentally discharged a key-based laser beam from his pointer finger into the radio of a certain, also unnamed for anonymity, manga-making robots radio. He may have accidentally destroyed that. That may or may not have happened. Yamcha may or may not have been the one to come and fix that. And this unnamed vampire man in question may or may not have received a, let's call it generous fine by the government, the world government, Pilaf, of course, for discharging a laser into a capsule house on government property, even if it's unintentional. So he's cooked. Yamcha has also gotten insanely good with the multiform technique, because that's the way he's been training for most of the year. Since he's been so preoccupied spending time with Bulma, he'd always make a copy of himself and then use that copy to train for him. It did diminish his gains, of course, but what can you do? If you knew why Bulma and Yamcha were so preoccupied, you'd understand why he mostly chose to stay with her rather than putting his whole soul into training. Yamcha has actually gotten so good at the multiform technique that, towards the end, he could control how much power he was actually putting into his duplicate before making him, meaning he could make the clone the stronger one rather than them being equal. That served to help him get stronger in the last couple of months, but ultimately not as much as he should have necessarily been. Yajirobe's power level is 4,000. He definitely wasn't putting in the same effort that everyone else was, but considering that Goku's transformation was apparently the same strength Uzaru Raditz was at first, and that even stronger people will come, Yajirobe certainly feels unsafe with his power, and he does want to grow stronger. Plus, he is living on government property, and in order to keep living there with him also being capable and able-bodied, they do sort of expect him to train to help protect the world and all. So he gives in to their demand on that. Does he plan to be on the front lines himself, taking bubblegum and chewing names? No! But he could hold his own for a minute or two. At least long enough to land a slash with his sword and then GTF out of dodge. Which, with his strength, would be surprisingly effective against a stronger opponent, keeping in mind his cannon power level at this time, and what he was able to do with his sword, and the fact that he's a little more than 4 times stronger here. Vegeta and Nappa may just be seared on both sides. The power level of each Pilaf mech has been raised up to 2,000 each, because they have been granted more power batteries. So, when combined, they would be at 6,000. Kami has continued training on his own, getting to a power level of 1,500. He did this because he's afraid of Piccolo and the Saiyans, but mostly Piccolo. He's also been taking care of Gohan for Chi-Chi and Goku. He even trained him a little bit. Kami hasn't discovered the power from Gohan's hidden rage, so Gohan's power level only went up to 50 because the training was really nothing serious, and Gohan still has way more power hidden away up in there. Neither Kami nor Gohan will be attending the battle against the Saiyans either, considering how dangerous it can prove to be. As for Piccolo, his power level is 8,000. He hasn't been training in preparation of the Saiyans, but he has been training so he could surpass Uzaru Raditz. Furthermore, he has no idea the Saiyans are even coming. Not like King Kai went out of his way to tell him. Piano's power level is 3,000. He's not exactly the kind of person who wants to go into a fight guns blazing, but he does recognize that the stronger he is, the better a training partner Piccolo can have, and the more strong Piccolo can get as well. Vegeta and Nappa, 18,000 and 8,000. Alternatively, 180,000 and 80,000 in Uzaru. Not that you didn't already know that. You did. How about Bora? Where's Bora? Unfortunately, he still hasn't found any trace of his son, and he's still on the lookout for him, so he's been missing out on quite a bit of training. He was never really a full-time member of the Dragon Team anyway, never been signed to any government contracts, never got any of that sweet payola or anything like that. If he were asked to join the battle, he gladly would have, but he wasn't. They figured, correctly, that he was still busy looking for Upa. Sorry about how long it's been. I've had computer issues and stuff, and it sucked, and I've had to completely set up my stuff again on an old tower computer I have, and I was honestly going to start on this video a lot sooner if nothing went wrong. And I know you know this already, but I'm just saying, the theme of this video, trying to do something even though you don't know where it's going to go, is still better than doing nothing, and that's a message that kind of resonates with me a lot as someone who struggles with motivation and that kind of thing, but you're not really here for that, so it doesn't matter. I don't know, hopefully you get something out of that. If not, then oh well. That being said, goodbye, have a good day or night or afternoon or whatever, I don't know. Make sure not to fall asleep behind the wheel. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the recording. Bye.